Madeleine Stowe was everywhere in the 1990s. She was one of Hollywood's most beautiful main ladies in movies like The Last of the Mohicans and 12 Monkeys. Then, when her career was at its peak, she pretty much disappeared. Today, we're going to talk about her best parts and why one of the biggest stars of the 1990s quit everything. Let it go dark. The family that Madeleine Stowe was born into is very interesting. One of her great-great-grandfathers, Bruno Carranza, was president of Costa Rica, and her mother came from a well-known political family in the country. Her dad came from Oregon and had Dutch, German, and English roots. Stowe found her first love in singing when she was a child in Eagle Rock, a working-class area of Los Angeles. At age 10, she started learning how to play the piano for concerts, getting better every day for hours. Before the terrible event in 1976, when her teacher died, this was her dream. It was such a terrible loss that she pretty much stopped playing. But this ending made a new start possible. She studied film and writing at the University of Southern California. In 1980, she played a blind painter named Annie Crane in an episode of Little House on the Prairie called Portrait of Love. There were a few more TV and movie roles for her, but nothing that really made her stand out yet. And then Stakeout came out in 1987. This comedy-action movie stars Stowe, Richard Dreyfuss, and Emilio Estevez. It's about two police officers who are spying on a woman named Maria and falling in love with her. The movie was a big hit, making over $100 million around the world, and it did something very important. It showed that Madeleine Stowe could carry a big studio movie. Not only was she pretty, but she also had charm, comedic timing, and a screen personality that made people want to watch her. Hollywood paid attention because this was her big break. In 1989, she was in the romance comedy Worth Winning, where she played Veronica Briscoe, a string-playing intellectual who was very demanding. It was the same year that Kevin Costner's love thriller Revenge came out. Then, in 1990, she played Lillian Bodine in The Two Jakes, the follow-up to the famous Chinatown movie, which starred Jack Nicholson. New wave noir with a lot of layers about cheating, murder, and the oil business in Los Angeles after World War II. She also played a children's book author accused of putting subversive messages in her books in Closetland, a tense psychological thriller with Alan Rickman that came out in 1991. She was in Unlawful Entry, a psychological thriller that was one of the most important movies in the early 1990s conspiracy genre. Stowe played Karen Carr, and Kurt Russell played her husband Michael. She and Michael's home is broken into, and they have a nightmare they could not have imagined. The movie made over $57 million at the box office, even though it only cost $23 million to make. What made it work was the chemistry, or rather, the awkward lack of chemistry, between the three stars. But in 1992, she played the lead part in Last of the Mohicans, which was the role that really made her name. This wasn't just another period piece. It was directed by Michael Mann and starred Daniel Day-Lewis. It was a huge historical love story that took place in 1757 during the French and Indian War. Stowe played Cora Munro, the oldest daughter of a British colonel who falls in love with Hawkeye, a white man who was raised by Mohicans. It was a huge hit with both critics and audiences, with stunning visuals and powerful emotional impact. Stowe and Daniel Day-Lewis had great chemistry, and their last scene together was amazing. In it, Hawkeye tells Cora, "You stay alive no matter what happens. I will find you." Became one of the most beautiful scenes in movies of the 1990s. In 1993, Robert Altman's ambitious ensemble drama Shortcuts came out, which looked at how the lives of several Los Angeles residents are linked. Stowe did well in a movie that was more about characters and atmosphere than story, even though it had a great cast. It was different from her more popular work and showed that she could deal with difficult art material. Stowe's first real lead part in a major thriller was in Blink, which came out in 1994. She played Emma Brody, an Irish folk singer who is blind but gets some sight back after a corneal transplant, and then sees a murder happen. The movie, which was directed by Michael Apted and also starred Aidan Quinn, looked into an interesting idea. Emma has delayed hallucinations, which means she doesn't always understand what she saw until hours or days later. Roger Ebert said that the movie was an unusually good thriller and that Stowe gave a character who could have been just another weak victim a tough, independent air. In the same year as Body Heat, Stowe played the standard femme fatale in China Moon, a neo-noir mystery starring Ed Harris and Benicio del Toro. The story took place in a small town in Florida and was hot and steamy, like body heat. Then, in 1995, she was in 12 Monkeys, a sci-fi movie directed by Terry Gilliam that really made her a big star. Taking on Dr. Many people think Stowe's best performance was as Catherine Rayleigh, a therapist who gets involved with Bruce Willis's character, a time traveler. She had to be skeptical, caring, scared, and brave all at the same time, all while competing with Bruce Willis and Brad Pitt, who stole the show and was nominated for an Oscar for his performance. By the middle of the 1990s, Madeleine Stowe was a real movie star, not just a working actor. Empire magazine named her one of the 100 sexiest movie stars ever in 1995. People magazine named her the 5th most beautiful woman in the world in 2012. Behind the glossy front, Stowe was becoming more and more unhappy with some parts of her job. She said something interesting about movie scenes where people are naked. It never came up where someone told them, "You have to do this or you won't make this movie." No, I was always happy to take part because it didn't seem to matter much. But it's become a lot more personal, and it makes me think of how unnecessary women are. This quote shows that her view has changed. As she got older and learned more about the business, something that used to seem like just part of the job started to bother her more. She went into more detail about how disappointed she was getting. Even though working with many of these people was fun, I knew I couldn't keep playing the victim because it wasn't fun. It had to end. He was a big star in Hollywood back in the 1990s. Saying that playing victims was so boring, she just couldn't keep doing it, even though she could have kept getting big parts and big paychecks. I'm most interested in behavior that doesn't make sense. Because the world is so crazy these days, I've been noticing how inconsistent people are. You can't be inconsistent, because that's one thing that women's jobs lack so much. This comment gets to the heart of a major problem in Hollywood. Most of the time, women's characters in fiction are flat and lack the contradictions and depth that make real people interesting. Men get to be complex, flawed, and hard to predict. Girls and women are too often the girlfriend, the victim, or the prize, and their stories don't really develop. Even though Stowe was worried about her career more and more, she had built a life outside of Hollywood that was more important to her than any part. After knowing Brian Benbon for only a year, she married him in 1982. In 1981, they met on the set of The Gangster Chronicles, an NBC drama. In a field known for short marriages and messy divorces, they've been together for more than 40 years. They own and run a working cow ranch together outside of Fredericksburg, Texas. It's not a pet ranch or a place to get away for the weekend. It is a real business that needs real dedication and hard work. Brian and she had their daughter, May Theodora Benbon, in San Antonio, Texas, in 1996. When Stowe became a mother, her values changed in ways that Hollywood couldn't handle or understand. So Stowe did something that not many big stars do. She pretty much just left. She didn't make a big statement or a mean-spirited confession. She just chose her family and ranch over Hollywood. As soon as 12 Monkeys was over, she stopped acting to focus on being a mom and spending time with her family. It was with Playing by Heart that she came back in 1998. An ensemble romantic thriller with Sean Connery, Angelina Jolie, Gillian Anderson, and Jon Stewart, among others. She played Gracie, a woman having problems in her marriage. Then there was 1999's The General's Daughter, a military thriller with John Travolta. In it, she played Sarah Sunhill, a rape investigator who used to date Travolta's character. The movie about the murder of a general's daughter was a big hit at the box office, making nearly $150 million around the world. Even though the movie did well at the box office, Stowe would make fewer and fewer appearances on film after this. She played Julie Moore in the 2002 war movie We Were Soldiers, which was based on the first important battle of the Vietnam War. She even filled in for Faith Hill in the role. She still cared about it, but not as much as she did before. From 2012 to 2013, she made $75,000 an episode on the later Revenge series. This was a rare return to regular work. That, too, was on her own terms and in a way that kept her close to home. In 1994, she made $1.5 million for Bad Girls, which is quite different. By Hollywood standards, she was making as much money as she could. She could have kept making a lot of money for years. She picked something else instead. Many artists don't understand what Stowe did, but she did. Fame and money aren't worth giving up your sense of self. When you're asked to play parts over and over that make you feel like you're not needed, when you can't be interesting, inconsistent, or complicated, is it worth it to keep working when you're deeply unhappy with it? Madeleine Stowe went to the Hollywood party for more than 10 years and then left quietly, almost without being seen. It really wasn't that exciting. She came, looked at what was there, and knew the limits of what was open to her at that time. Maybe things are changing in the business now, and women have more roles than being a victim, a love interest, or a pretty object. But during Stowe's time, her looks held her back. Over the last 20 years, she and her husband have lived in peace on their Texas ranch. She's been married to the same man for more than 40 years, which is almost unheard of in her field. Hollywood wants actors to be thankful for the chance to stay hungry for the next part and the next paycheck, no matter how successful they become. But Stowe knew what was important to her and was brave enough to leave everything else behind. There's a lot of pride and ambition in that town, so that might have been her best showing ever. Thanks for watching. If you like this kind of video, please like, follow, and leave a comment. It helps the channel a lot. As always, I can't wait to see all of you at the next one.